Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom is back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. Now, I am still sick, but I'm not as sick of seeing this freaking AC Cobra in every single pack that is being released. I love that transition, by the way. I feel a lot better. Obviously, I'm still sick. I still have COVID. I did a second test today. I mean, it's like the third going to the fourth day. I feel fine now. I don't have any joint pains. I don't feel cold, no fever symptoms, nothing like that. It's just that my voice is a little raspy still, which would make it sound like I'm a pretty good singer. But no, I'm not. Rapper, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I feel a lot better now. So which is good. I slept a lot last night. So and I've always had my appetite as well. But today I want to be reviewing the so-called interestingly and quickly named the Lava pack. Lava standing for Lancia, AC, Volvo, and what's the last one? Alfa Romeo. And I want to see how useful this pack actually is. Because the first thing about Alfa Romeo is this, and maybe I'm due for doing another video on ranking every single manufacturer pack in the game. Because PL15, almost at 16, PL15 actually made the Alpha pack a lot more enticing. Why? Is because you have cars like the Alfetta, which is now like the best ultra off-roader. So obviously, you know, that has raised in value. You have the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, that's the only legendary Alpha that you can pull now, so 100% of getting an RQ90 plus legendary. And of course the, Stelvio, the Giulia Quadrifoglio, which is now a fantastic epic saloon with amazing MRA. So a lot of good things to say about Alfa Romeo. But that being said, that's only 25% of this pack. So, or at least 25% of the brands that you can get. Alright, so we're going to start off once again with the AC Cobra. And as always, it's going to be a pernicious ulcer. I've said it about, like I said, this car has been in so many packs. I'm sick of seeing it now. As much of a beautiful car that it is, it's just like, that's it, you know, it's pleasant on the eye, and I like seeing it the first couple of times, but now that we've seen like 100 different packs and 100 different tri-series where this car has been given out as a prize car, bro, I'm sick of it. But yeah, the AC Cobra, I've talked about it many times, right? No MRA, handling just isn't good enough. It's a jack of all trades, not going to win anything, very big disappointment. Alfa Alfetta is going to be their Kaiser. It kind of is the meta now. If you don't have any of those epic off-roaders fully maxed out, it is going to beat the Datsun. It's going to beat other rear-wheel drive off-road tire cars as well that are ultra rare or below. So the Alfetta is going to be very, very useful going forward. And it's the same thing for the Auto Delta, which really brings up the stock for the Alpha pack. It's actually, the Alpha pack is actually pretty strong now, I would say. The Auto Delta is your go-to front-wheel drive dragster. It was before PL15 and it still is right now as well. It has medium ground clearance, decent handling, a high top speed, and great MRI. This is a car that is kind of a jack of all trades, but also master of something, and that's what makes the Auto Delta so unique and so special. The next car is the Alfa Romeo Giulia Veloce, and I think it's a frequent provider. For RQ50, it's about as cheap as an ultra can get, or it is as cheap as an ultra can get. It handles really well, and it has that saloon niche as well. So I would say that it is a frequent provider. Pretty decent. You will need to use it in certain situations, but not all the time. And it's going to be the same thing for the Mitso, right? The Mitso, you know, once again, it's that entry-level RQ for ultra rares, RQ50, but it's got that ridiculously low 0 to 60. The handling could be better. 80 isn't the best thing in the world, but at least it's still RQ50, not 58 with 80 handling like the 427, and with no MRA as well. So the Alpha, I would say, is decent. It also has no MRA. When you think about it, it's a front-wheel drive version of the AC Cobra, but with a slightly slower 0 to 60, but also slightly lower RQ. So I think that you are going to get more bargain out of the Alpha ultimately because it is the cheaper cars to use over the AC. Now we need to talk about all of the Lancias over here. Now, when it comes to the Lancias, the most useful Lancias are usually the most expensive and the cheapest car to use. That's mainly because, like, if you want to use RQ, you're either going to be using the best because, you know, the highest RQ car usually is the best car, or you want to use the cheapest car to save you the most RQ for the most expensive car. Which in this case, the most expensive and the least expensive is the 61 Delta Evolution 2 and the RQ54 Delta Integrale 8V. Everything else is still, you know, relatively decent, and I'll give them all frequent provider. But I would say that the two cars that I tend to use the most would be these two, mainly because one's a bargain and one is the best. Alright, now we have the Volvos. The Volvos are basically worse Lancias because they handle less. So I would start off with the Volvo S60, which I'm going to put in meta outside. outsider. It doesn't really have good MRA. It has traction control and ABS, but it doesn't handle. It is a very, very disappointing car, to be honest. And I think a lot of people knew that already, because this was a car that you needed to use. And I forgot what the special tag was. But remember, there was a special tag. I think it was Silver Screen, and there were only like Silver Screen 2, and there were only 5 Ultras that you could use, and the S60 was one of them. Yes, it was a very useful car in the Silver Screen challenge, but that was because it was one of 5 Ultras you could use. Outside of that, the S60 is hot garbage. But yeah, meta outsider, as we call it nowadays. We don't want to get into that cancel culture, because hot garbage is gonna get me canceled one day. All right, Volvo V70R, a car with no MRA, but it is medium ground clearance. It is state, and it handles pretty well, but I would feel like the RQ is just way too high. 6282 for RQ57. I mean, when you think about it, for 2 RQ more in the Lancia, you get 6083 or 5481. That is massive. Okay, that is a massive difference from 6282. Just to put it into comparison, for 3 RQ less, you can get 1 handling less and 0.1 seconds less. Or in another way, I'll tell you, I'll just reason it with you this way, okay? You're telling me that a car that is 0.1 seconds faster and 1 handling more, that has 1 handling more, deserves to be 3 RQ more than the Lancia? I'm sorry, I'm still sick, so I can't really talk, but you get what I mean. Like, you think there's really a 3 RQ difference between this Lancia and the Volvo? No, there isn't. The Volvo doesn't even have MRA. They're both medium and they're both 4-wheel drive. I'd rather just use the Lancia, because at the end of the day, the Volvo may beat the Lancia, but in the grand scale of things, at least in the ultra category, these two cars are still going to lose to, say, a Delta Evolution 2. You know what I mean? Alright, Volvo V90 T6. Now, this car is cheaper to use than the V70R, and yet it also has a way lower 0 to 60 of 0.4 seconds. Also has traction control and ABS. Cheaper to use, is the better car. I'm gonna give it frequent provider. And then we have the Volvo XC90. Now, this car has really fallen in stock because of that handling cut. That being said, the handling still isn't the worst thing in the world, but it used to be so much better. So now, you know, it being a very heavy car with a low 0 to 6, with a high 0 to 60 or a slow 0 to 60. When I mean low, I usually mean slow. And you know, the handling isn't as good as it used to be. The best it's gonna be is just average now. And then we have the Volvo XC90 V8, and once again, this car, not very useful. I'll give it pernicious ulcer because of that low 0 to 60. Alright, moving on now are going to be the Epics. And once again, much like the Ultra ACs, I am sick and tired of seeing these two everywhere. This car is probably one of the worst World Expo cars in the game. One of the worst World Expo Epics as well. It's going to be a meta outsider. The AC Cobra MK3 427 is slightly better, and I'm going to give it pernicious ulcer. Mainly because it has a higher top speed and better MRA. It's got a slower 0 to 60 compared to the 65 AC, and it's got worse handling, but it doesn't matter because one car at least knows that it wants to be a dragster. The other car, which doesn't have as good of MRA and top speed, doesn't really know what it wants to be. You know what I mean? It's just an over-glorified AC Cobra 427, which is a lot more expensive and also a lot harder to fully upgrade. And then we have the Alfa Romeo 4C. Now, all these Alphas, I gotta say, they're pretty decent. Like, they have either really good MRA or they have, you know, decent handling. Like, they all have their quirks. The first one is the 8C Spider. I'm gonna give it daily driver. Same with the Disco Volante, and the Giulia Quadrifoglio is going to be Der Kaiser. The Alpha 4C, however, I'm gonna give it frequent provider just because it handles the least, and also because if you want an Alpha that has that MRA, you might as well just go for the Disco Volante, or even the 8C Spider has that as well. So these cars are just slightly better. And the Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio is your go-to saloon. It is what the M3 CS used to be, but better. It has the same stats as the M3 CS, but it has a higher top speed and better MRA. It has 90 MRA, which is very, very impressive. Now, let me just run through the Alpha stats for you real quick. So, the 4C has 82 MRA, and the 8C Spider has 88. The only reason why they're the same RQ is because the 4C is very light. It is under 1,000 kilograms, kilograms. It is, 995 kilograms. So it's a very light car, but outside of that, it doesn't have any more positives over the other Alphas over here. Still a decent car, right? Disco Volante 86.99, and the Giulia Quadrifoglio is 90.22. So very, very strong. Lancia 037 Rally is going to be Der Kaiser, and the Stratos is going to be Meta Outsider. So now your Lancia Epics are going to be either something that's really good or something that's really shite. Okay, next up is the Volvo C30 Polestar. It's going to be Der Kaiser for sure. Like 4-wheel drive, 88 handling. It's a relatively lightweight car. It's a good Volvo. It is the best Volvo without a doubt. Then we have the Volvo Concept Coupe, 4-wheel drive with a decent 0 to 60, 474 RQ. I don't know about this one. I want to put it as a high frequent provider. Let me know if you own this, because this used to be a legendary. I've never had it since it's gone down. Let me know if this has been a very useful car for you or not. To me, if it was 4585, I would bump it up a lot more, but 83, not quite good enough. Volvo S60R all-wheel drive, 5.5, 83 for RQ66. Nothing too special about this. I'm going to give it pernicious ulcer. Then we have the S60 T8 all-wheel drive, which handles even less than the S60. It is a lot more expensive, but it is a whole second faster to 60 as well. At the same time, I'll just put them both as pernicious ulcer, honestly. Like, these are cars that you're not going to get a lot of value out of anyway, even though they are saloons. And then you have the Volvo S80 V8. Now, this is a car that handles alright. It has 4-wheel drive center tires and medium ground clearance, but to be fair, frequent provider is the best I'm going to give it. A little harsh, maybe, but I am a 4-wheel drive center tire collector. And for RQ75, that car is not competitive with that handling score, okay? When you think about it, 75, you're going to be competing with cars that are, 76, 77, 78, all the way to the top. And you're going to be going up against cars like the DS Numero 9, the Cadillac CT6, and even cars like the Subaru Legacy, which is cheaper than the Volvo, has better handling. And we all know how important handling is. So unfortunately, the S80, even though it looks good on paper, it's a decent car, but it isn't as high as I would rank Daily Driver or Der Kaiser. And then we have Volvo S90 T8 all-wheel drive, 4.580. Once again, I'm just gonna put it with a gang over here. They got low 0 to 60s. Who the hell cares? You know what I mean? Like, they got no MRA. They don't really handle very well. Only reason why they're not in Meta Outsiders is because they're 4-wheel drive. They're medium. It's kind of like Subarus, but they just handle less. It's sad. And then the Volvo V60 Polestar. This one's okay. I'll give it frequent provider once again. It's medium ground clear. Actually, it might have gone to low, but it's in a state. It is 4-wheel drive. It might actually be low ground clearance now, but it is one of the better handling Volvos as well. That's what makes the Polestar so special. It's a Volvo that actually handles really well. And then we have the V60 T8 Polestar, and I'm going to put this in frequent provider. It's a bit harsh to put it there because the V60 T8 is actually a relatively strong car. I'll put it in a very high frequent provider or a very low daily driver. The main thing about the V60 T8 Polestar is that it's very, very, very heavy, and it's not the best estate to use because it doesn't have the MRA, and there are cars with better handling as well, but it is a very strong car. I'll give it a low daily driver, and then the Volvo XC40 T5 all-wheel drive, I'm going to give it a high frequent provider. It is quite a dark horse of a car, but not good enough for me to say, wow, this thing is absolutely fantastic. But it is decent, and I respect it. Why? What is the dark horse factor about this car? It's very, very light. And it also handles very well for an RQ72. So it has my respect. It is a decent car. And then we have the XC60, which is a better version of the XC40. In fact, it's a way better version because it has a way lower 0 to 60. It is heavier. It is a lot heavier, but it has a way lower 0 to 60, almost an entire second, and it handles better as well, which is very, very important. And then we have the XC90 T8 twin engine. And another reason why I'm putting this in Der Kaiser is because when you think of European Revolution all-surface tire cars, it's the XC60, at least the first two that come to my mind. XC60 for twisty stuff, Peking to Paris for fast stuff. That's it. if I'm missing anything, let me know. Volvo XC90 T8 twin engine. This car is going to be a pernicious ulcer. I do not care. I know that this car, I have it maxed in my garage. I needed to max it for the Viper Finals, and I understand that it has like a win percentage of like 87%, and I don't know how, but it's just not good. It's a decent car. It's a decent all-surface tire SUV if there was a SUV event with no off-road. Like if it was just all dry, then it would be decent because it's got a relatively low 0 to 60. Actually, it's got a very low 0 to 60 for its RQ 68, if not a relatively low 0 to 60 for an SUV, for an Epic in general. But the handling is just really bad, and it's really heavy, so it's useless in the snow, and it's gonna be very poor off-road. But yeah, if there's any dry all-surface tire dry SUV events, then the XC90 would be useful. But like I said, very niche situations for it to be very useful in. Last but not least are the legendaries. We start off with the ACs, and none of these ACs are actually really enticing. The AC MK I'm gonna put in frequent provider, and then these two are gonna be pernicious ulcer. Look, man, they got really good MRA, they got low 0 to 60s, but like I said, man, with cars like the Farbound or even just the Charger Hellcat, they're gonna be better dragsters. The only way you can get value out of those ACs, especially the RQ80 ones, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, you have to max them out. And nobody wants to max on RQ80 Legendary. And then we have the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, which is obviously Der Kaiser. And then we have the Lancias, and I think every single Lancia Legendary, besides the new Stratos, deserve to be Der Kaiser. The new Stratos, this is an interesting one, because yes, it has gotten... oh yeah, and one more thing about the Volvo, I just took out the stats for it. The Volvo V60, you want to know how heavy it is? It's 2 tons, 2,091 kilograms stock. But yeah, the Lancia new Stratos, where am I going to put this? You know, with that handling buff that it got, it went from 3.288, I think it's now 3.289. I'm not sure if it used to be 3.2, but it definitely went from 88 to 89. I think because of that, and knowing how light the car actually is, and for that cheap of an RQ, I'll bump it up to Der Kaiser. Fair. I'm usually pretty strict, like if a Legendary doesn't hit 100 handling, then you're not worth it. But I will take into account that the Lancia New Stratos is a very lightweight car. Let me check for you real quick how light it actually is. So Lancia. I need to blow my nose, bro. Lancia, the New Stratos has an MRA of, Corn can tell you this off the bat, 85.71, which isn't too bad, and it's light. So to be fair, like it's a pretty strong car. I would give it to Kaiser, but a part of me wants to put it to Daily Driver, honestly. I don't know. I'm sorry, I feel like Korn is getting into my head sometimes, and he's just like, because I know Korn really rates this car, but then he has all the reason to rate this car because his new Stratos is maxed. Yeah, obviously if it's a max Legendary, it's their Kaiser, but I gotta think about it when it's stock. I think I'll give it Daily Driver, honestly. Yeah, I'll give it Daily Driver. I'm just looking at it, I'm like, it's light, like 1,002 kilograms is light, but like if it was like 1,000 kilograms, maybe I'll put it in the Kaiser, but yeah, 1,002 Daily Driver. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be my assessment of the Lava Pack. Should you open it? I mean, honestly speaking, Volvo kind of brings down the value. I would say Volvo and AC brings down the value. If this was just a Lancia and Alpha Pack, that would have been great. But the Volvo and the Volvo and the AC aspects kind of bring it down. So if anything, I will be looking forward to an Alpha Pack in the future. That's what I've learned from this pack. Alpha Packs are pretty good now. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. I'm gonna stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back,